Muri yeZimbabwe kusangana kwatiri kuita zvakare ipo pano paZim News update apo petinode kupa mafirst hand update anonga ari kuitika munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. So kana uri mutsva usabve pano usina kusubscribe, kulike nekushare. So tine mashoko etiri kutambira pano ari kunzi mauto Zimbabwe ari kuthreatena bato reZANU-PF sezvo zvatiri kuziva kuti pakaitwa press conference yakaitwa nava comrade Bombshell Geza yakazokonzeresa kuti ana Blessed Mushanga vange vachigara 72 days vari mukati meusungwa. Zviri kunzi ipapo press iyoyo yainge yakabhekwa nemagenerals vanga vari behind cameras, chinova chiri cho chiratidzo chinoratidza kuti zvinhu hazvinomira zvakanaka, sezvo zvatiri kuona kuti even Ananox Chiwero chaicho vainge varipo now ari kusimudzira Geza revolution. So tiri kuona kuti mauto havasi kufara nezviri kuitwa, uye mauto vari kutaura iwo kutoti no, takanyeperwa navatapfuma nei inova iri alaya president Shocker Mnangagwa kuti tichange tichikwidzirwa mari, but takangoona kuti masalaries edu vakangouya akangodaro. So tiri kuona kuti now takaudzwa futi kunzi toda kukwidzirwa mari, but tingoona kuti masalaries edu ari kungoramba achiuya akadaro, hapana kana kukwidzirwa mari. Apo petiri kuona kuti vanhu vari mubato reZANU-PF, mabig wigs mubato reZANU-PF vari kusplasha mari idzodzo dzingadai dziri kupiwa macivil servants. Sezvo zvatiri kuziva kuti macivil servants wakapiwa mari inobva yatanga kutenderera munyika, even mabusinesses anotanga kufamba muri yeZimbabwe. So ndoda kuti munzwe conversation yetinayo pano uzotiudza comment section kuti zvinhu zvakamira sei
after the 90 days. In terms of you telling the good story of Zimbabwe, in terms of whatever momentum has been built about the image of Zimbabwe. Thanks, Nyamazuzha. Thanks.
And there are factories that are processing these lithium products. These are the benefits. You're seeing the national railways, they're beginning to fix some of their locomotives because they can now get parts from General Electric. You're seeing them fixing their railway lines. You're seeing them beginning again to get the railways going again, to get trucks off the roads. These are all blessings of the removal of sanctions. And I think our economy has exported more tobacco, more gold, more platinum, almost every mineral. Cotton coming back, milk production, we've now begun to break the numbers of the past. And these are all positives. And those are a sign of the impact of sanctions leaving a country, the risk factor reducing. So yeah, that is what is happening. And that's why we tell the good story for these kind of differences you are seeing, because ultimately they'll deal with all the other failures and allow the government to fix all the other things that we're currently not happy about. The only thing we need to do is to deal with the Chinese who are running amok in our country. Thanks.
Problem China. But anyway, are you fixed now? Are you sorted now?
I think I'm good now.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So I've got Mr. T, I've got Ongab. Let me bring guys. Panabagaba. If you want to ask questions, request for the mic. Nasi munhu wese ari kuvhunza mubvunzo, anda kuvhunza mubvunzo. Saka if you've got the guts to come and ask Rutendo any question, please, do so. So can I go to Mr. T, ask your question, and then Tejara Ongab, you come through and you ask your question.
Okay. I just wanted to find out from Rutendo, what is your plan like going forward? Do you plan on continuing with marketing, or you want to go into politics? The simple question.
Right, okay. I think, it's a simple question. You can answer to that. Ongab, do you want to come in?
It's an
Muslim, right?
Happy belated. It's not the
Happy belated.
Yeah, that one.
I understand.
Chirandu Munofare.
Andinofara chaizo.
I wanted it right. So what I want to talk about, I've written a thread in the Panipanda Isai and into Lord Muson Pindurao because I don't have enough time within the Nyazopa context yet. But especially with when people do public relations. In that word, there's at the end, it's relations, meaning between you as the public relations counsel or agent You have your client and you have the public, and you are supposed to be building a relationship. And the majority of the work is analyzing the public mind and the public sentiment and giving it to your client so that they know what's happening. But what we have seen, particularly in our context in Zimbabwe, is public relations agents are always trying to shape the public mind as if the public has no clue of what's happening or does not have the ability to shape its own mind. And we don't see any signs that this public relations agent is representing the public sentiment to its client. And in politics, they call it truth to power. And even in as much as you have been speaking, majority of the content that you give is still speaking to the public. But the access that some of you public relations agents have, you should be able to tell some of these clients to say, this is the situation on the ground. If you want to be prosperous, it could be a company, it could be a political party, it could be a government. You need to align yourself with what the public is saying. And none of that happens. What we can only see from here is a relationship where the agent needs to get paid by the client, and the agent then goes to the public and convinces or forces a narrative to say this should be your truth. And if we should go to the issue of sanctions, personally, those sanctions on these political figures or on the country, they mean nothing to me, because every day I see corrupt activities which are a greater sanction to whatever I'm trying to achieve. And no PR person has ever come to, okay, in your campaigns in dealing with sanctions, you have never addressed that kind of sanction on the people to say this kind of activity that's happening in the government is affecting people to this extent, as much as you have done with how these international sanctions can actually slow down an economy or harm it. So essentially, I'm just saying there's a great responsibility that you guys actually have to be able to speak to power and actually tell them how they should align with the public, instead of bringing their narrative, your client's narrative, to us so that we can have all these figures, the prosperity that's happening. There is a huge disconnect, and it's becoming a disservice. I hope that makes sense. And I'm just putting it a challenge to say there's more that you can do in the space of PR for it to be beneficial for both your client and the public at large.
Right. So, okay. Over to you, Arutendo.
Thank you, Ongab. I'll start with Ongab. Ongab, the thing is, you know how an accountant simply focuses on accounting, while the actuary focuses on doing the actuarial science and working out the risk, and the production manager focuses on production. What you have been asking me to do is to try and have an accountant becoming the production manager. It doesn't work. What people have to do is they have to specialize in what they specialize in, because there are specific purposes in what their specialties achieve. So, for example, the PR person is not just there to build a relationship between the organization and the people. He is also there, particularly when it comes to national PR, to change mindsets of the people in order for them to achieve their optimum performance. So, for example, there are a number of Zimbabweans that are waiting for jobs to come to them. And as a PR agent of a country that is supposed to be a developmental state that is developing itself, we also have to remind people that there is no one born to create jobs for anyone. Everybody has a responsibility to create jobs for themselves before they expect somebody else to create a job for them. It's very important for Africans to be told this now and again, because the companies that you require are created by people. And what we want people to understand, it's your responsibility to create a job for yourself and your children before you expect someone to create a job for you. And then people say, why would you say that? I say that because I was a marketing person and I was struggling to get a job until I created my own agency. And I had to start from scratch, from nothing, starting to market without a website. And you had to create stories until people believe in your skill and then begin to give you opportunity and you build something. Why? Because had I waited, I probably would have waited forever for someone to create a job for me. Same as those people who have no education. You get grade sevens in Zimbabwe that have become millionaires. Scott Sakpwanya, who probably did not really do well in school, will tell you that he started off washing cars until he got into working for Macmillan. From working for Macmillan, he then started trading gold, went to ask for his own gold buying license, and he changed his life. Mumwe anokudza kuti I started as a mukorokoza panning gold. I then went and got a gold prospecting license. I got my own claim, and now I'm. So we want people to hear those stories of successful people who started with nothing in the same tough environment that you have, which is made tough because there are not many people in our environment creating opportunities or innovating, to start people from getting to innovate so that we can contribute to earning and money coming into the economy and then our environment becoming feasible. They always say that it is not policy that starts. It is business and people who start doing activities. People started panning gold before mining laws came. People started building houses before building laws and bylaws came. People started building before cities came, and that building created towns, and then the towns became cities. So it is human development, human innovation that begins the process, and then policy follows. Prosperity comes from human activities that then creates policies of taxation and policies of managing an industry that has already started. Africans tend not to understand this because they tend to wait for things to happen for them with someone else doing it. Politicians are not going to build our future for us. We are going to build our future for us. Makorokoza in Zimbabwe are showing you that they started off by being illegal miners for government to make policies to allow them and to legalize them to mine. They didn't sit at home waiting for the policy to make it for them. They started mining. They started being recognized as an entity that exists. They started producing gold. They produced so much of it that government said, oh my God, these guys are so productive and they're active and they're providing for themselves. We need to actually make policies to counter for them. They went and lobbied as well. So that's what we need to do before we start pointing fingers and blaming. Before we cry that I don't have a job, ask yourself, in our family, how many jobs has my uncle, father, grandfather created? You realize no one has created one. You recognize that there is a familial curse of a family of people that have not been economically active and independent. You tell yourself that I want to be that one who's going to be economically independent. It's not easy. But if each and every one of us out of the 16 people we have did that, and 2% of them succeeded, we would have way more businesses than we have today. So these are the things that you guys have to understand. So as public relations people, we tell you that so you understand that it's not only government and the corrupt officials that have to change. We as a nation of 16 million people have to change. We as a nation of 16 million people have to play our role. When our nation is under sanctions, we all cannot watch the sanctions degrading and destroying us because we are crying about corruption. We must try to end one problem that we can end and then try to fix the other one after. And that's what I try to do as a citizen. So, reason we give these PR stories is we realize that Africans in general are pessimistic, negative, and they live in communities where people who are there are poverty stricken, and so they also tell very depressing stories of nothingness, complaining, crying. Those of us who have come from the other side of town where we didn't grow up in poverty, we had a bit of opportunity. We meet people with positive stories. We want to tell those positive stories to infuse positivity and infuse a can do attitude instead of a victim mentality in our people. So that's why we tell you success stories. We tell you of a guy who came from a village like you and he became a millionaire. We tell you of Scott Sakpanya who came from Mavuku where he had nothing and he became a millionaire, but he started off by lending shoes to people, buying and selling shoes. And from there, washing cars of rich people. And from there, working for a white man who gave him an opportunity to trade gold. We are saying to you, it might happen to you. Look for the opportunity. Don't sit at home crying, feeling like a victim. So that's why we do it. So we don't tell the sad story like Ongab is saying. You must balance it out with the negativities. You are hearing negative from Hopewell, from everybody. Here on this platform, I hear you guys talking every day. A lot of the stories you speak here are negative. Why should I add to that when that story has already been fully told? Why can't we tell the other story? And we have had results from it. You saw Wodemaya coming here, telling the story about Zimbabwe, the positive story about Zimbabwean tourism. 2 years later, we hear that Zimbabwe is the best tourist destination, pointing the very same places that Odemaya and Top Gear went to. Had Top Gear come here, started telling us about the good story and the beauty of Zimbabwe and the bad story, would people be coming? No. Because people already know that Africa is a shithole, and if we affirm that it's a shithole, no one needs to come here. So if we're going to change this, we must tell positive stories that bring tourists, who tell more positive stories that bring more tourists, and we make more money, we make more taxes, we create more businesses, we create more jobs, and we change lives that way. Negativity consistently and persistently always builds more poverty. America is sold. When I went to America the first time, I was shocked. The subway was terrible. New York did not look like what it looks like in the movies. And I realized they sold us their story. Why can't Africans learn to sell a story? South Africa has got so many problems, shacks, murders, but we all go there for tourism. We are not even scared of the murder rate. But people are more scared to come to Zimbabwe than South Africa. Yet South Africa has a higher murder rate. You're likely to be raped there because they tell their good story. I don't know why Zimbabweans think telling their bad story is going to give them an advantage. It doesn't. Because it only makes a few people rich, and those few people who are rich will oppress you while you continue to cry of hunger. Then, lastly, Mr. T asked, are you going to go into politics or are you going to continue in business? I'm going to continue in business. I do not have a passion for politics. I think it's a dirty game. I think you can already see the attacks that are happening to me now. A lot of those attacks are because people think I've gone opposite. I'm now opposition. I intend to create a party. I'm being funded by some white guy. And no, I don't have an interest for that. Honestly, if I'm honest with you, I think the biggest change that's going to come in the next 20 years in Zimbabwe will probably come from ZANU PF itself within. It's the people in ZANU PF that are going to transform, and they are going to continue to rule for a long time to come because we do not have an organized opposition, and organized opposition doesn't really get enough funding. So that is the problem. And so if you don't get enough funding, they're always going to buy your leaders. There are billionaires in Zimbabwe who can afford to buy your leaders. And if our leaders are financial about profits and they are about self-interest, they'll continue to be bought. The Shabangu scenario. I won't say other people so that we don't fight here on this platform, but there are many of your politicians that have been bought and compromised, and hence the opposition movement is dead. That's because those people did not have real political ideology at heart. They didn't have national interest at heart. They were just there to serve themselves, and politics was a career. And once they were offered money, they're gone. So I don't know if I've got the passion to be in politics. I don't think I've got the patience, and I don't do anything where my heart is not really there.
Right, Moftadas, over to you.
Right. Thanks, Rutendo. Thanks for that. Okay. So next, I think we've got Tom Munyaradzi and hey, you people keep dropping. Okay, and Owen. So can I go to Tom? Then we go to Munyaradzi. Then we go to Owen Chari.
Hello guys, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, go ahead. We can.
Okay, sorry, I might be a bit late. I don't know if I'm going to recycle this question or someone has asked me before, but my question to my brother Rotendo is that I just want to understand, like, and Tambure paid you the $6 million that he owed you. Will we be having this conversation like this today, or it's just a deal? It's just a deal which went wrong. That's why you're trying to maybe expose these guys. Like I just want to understand, like from your own point of view, yeah, this guy is kept on giving you more PR objectives. Let's say now, I know the first objective was the starting objective, But then, if they had given you another offer to do the 2030 objective as a PR organization, were you going to deny them that opportunity, since you are just a PR fan, as you claim to be?
Right. Okay. Thank you, Tom, for that. I think it's been asked before, but obviously you'll respond if you feel needs to. Then I think Munyaradzi, please come next. Munyaradzi. Okay. Can I go to Owen Chari?
Move status murise.
The right, should you say?
Amene kuti mukomana uyu akura here ane mazino here manje because pane a couple of days kam ndikuona kunge atomera mazino ende chimwana ichi zvakaoma hazvo taakutogona kupronounza mawords in no time. Ndo rinonzi shura apa dread rasvika munzeve umu. Zvakaoma hazvo. Anyways, Moyo Chirandu murise. Mukoma Rutendo. Ndizvo. Pamwe ndatadza kuti Moyo Chirandu. I don't know.
Aiwa ndizvo ndisu anabvumarana.
Okay. Mukutaura naMwendamberi Nondo. Mwendamberi yakanaka yacho inonzi Nondo. Kwete Mwendazi uyu ana Muchirawo ana Mofe Mukona aiwa. Isusu tiri Nondo. Anyways, my brother Rutendo, I have about 6 questions for you because I have mataura. Munotaura mukoma. So now my first question is, do you have a contract with the government of Zimbabwe? Did you have a contract when you were doing this job with the government of Zimbabwe? And then who breached the contract if the contract was there? Number 2, what do you expect of a new Zimbabwe under a billionaire, Aguirre, who is under sanctions? Because you said he is your best foot forward and he is under sanctions. So how do you see him making it for Zimbabwe? And number 3, do you blame anyone who is trying to sanction you or maybe to eliminate you, since it is a time of war? Like you said, when the opposition activists were being beaten and all that, you said it was war. Right now, we believe that it is a war and somebody is trying to eliminate you. I've read articles that says they are sorting to eliminate you from the face of the world. Number 4, did Zimbabwe change, or Zimbabwean government, did it change from its doings that made it to be sanctioned by the world? Did they change in their behavior? So if they've changed, is it the reason why sanctions were removed? Number 5, are you speaking from a space of bitterness, or you are genuine? If you are genuine, who are you protecting? Is it the Zimbabweans or the PR work that you are doing for somebody who've got a good pace? Then my last question, which is the 6th one, is PR and politics. What is real and how does it help the general public, since we live in politics? Thank you so much, my brother.
All right. Okay, so we have 3 questions, Rutendo. Maybe if I can ask you to try and condense your responses. I know some of them you have answered some of the questions on different platforms, but maybe you are not all from that. They haven't had the answers. So maybe if you can respond. Right. So yeah, I'll let you respond to those ones.
Okay, thank you. If they had given me my money, would I be talking as I'm talking? If I had $4 million in my pocket and it's now mine, I can talk what I want and I can live anywhere I want in the world. So yes, I would speak. In fact, there's more reason not to speak right now because they are still holding my money and I need to please them to get my money. But my conscience didn't allow me. And I know many people find it very difficult that how can you speak how can you speak and leave your chances of getting paid? Clearly, you were not going to get paid, so that's why you're bitter. No, 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 no. I just couldn't keep quiet. And I'm a passionate person. I feel with my heart. I act from my heart. I'm not always rational in my actions. And this one I felt strongly about. I could not defend this. So even if I was paid to do PR, to do 2030, I could not promote 2030. It just doesn't make sense for us to give a parliament the right to choose our leaders. It just doesn't make sense for us to allow people to butcher the constitution the way they want to. Because if they butcher it now and they set a precedence of extending the term limit, what stops them from extending it again in 2030 and saying that now the president is starting his first 7 years? And then after that 7 years, say, oh, he's now going into his second 7 years. What stops that from happening? So I took the position on a principle, not because I was angry. And it actually doesn't make sense for me to be angry before I get paid. So if there was a time I should have told the line, it's now until I was paid. And if I had been paid, then I've got nothing to stop me from speaking because I've got money. And 4 million is a lot of money that can actually make sure that you're never poor again. So yeah, I think Tom, I was really driven by my spirit to do this, and I know a lot of people don't believe spirituality, but I believe in spirituality, and there are pani moya nyika ino. It can push you to do things that it's not even logical for you to do, and for me to endanger my life like this is not logical. Owen Chari said, "Do you have a contract with government, and who breached the contract?" Owen, if you listen to me explaining how we got to where we got to, part of why we were telling that story so that we can answer these kind of questions. So I'm not going to go into that one. I'm not going to go into finger pointing and calling names again because I'm trying to get us away from that toxicity. What do you believe? And a short answer: there was no contract. There was a gentleman's agreement. A gentleman's agreement that included the president, his son, and an advisor to the president. What do you believe? And remember, a contract doesn't have to be written. A contract can even be a verbal agreement as long as there's a meeting of the minds, consensus ad idem. It's an agreement. So you can say we had a contract, but it's not deduced to paper. And according to the law, a contract like this doesn't have to be deduced to paper. I think only one where you hire purchase and maybe buying a house, those are the ones that need to be deduced in writing by law. What do you believe Zimbabwe will be like under a billionaire? Look, I had a lot of confidence in the billionaire. I was going to support him all the way. Right now, with the fight that has happened, where I expressed my thoughts about the constitutional amendment and how I didn't support it, and I did not like the violence that was being visited upon the opposition, the billionaire got people to attack me, and some of these attacks you saw online were because of him. It made me question his sense of judgment. It made me question his temperament as a leader and a potential president. And I think he's not mature enough yet. That's number one. Number two, he's got too much conflict of interest. The fact that he is the land tenure committee, land tenure implementation chairman. Then he's got a company that's doing the digitization of these title deeds. And then on top of that, he's got the banks that are lending money to people that might want those title deeds. Says to me he's got too much conflict of interest to be a leader who is not conflicted.